It's a bunch of crazy stories written by the Brothers Grimm. And now you're gonna learn all about them, listening to the Brothers Dim.
Students and scholars, friends and relations, welcome to the Brothers Dim podcast, a podcast where we have a delightful time discussing the stories written down by the Brothers Grimm while they were in Germany in the early 19th century, including today's tale, story number 43, Frau Trude. My name is Phil.
And my name is Mike.
Mike, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm good. And now, kind of importantly, I would like to ask, how are your kids? And do they misbehave?
Ooh, it depends on how you define misbehave. Sometimes they do, but other times they're just buried in their phones and can't get them to even do anything to misbehave.
Okay. So
it depends.
Okay, well, fair enough. And then I guess a follow-up question. How willful is your firstborn and secondborn?
Oh my God, extraordinarily. Extraordinarily.
Oh, docil's not the right word for mine, but he's just a toddler, so he can't really talk.
It's kind of a get-along kid.
Yeah. Well, he can't talk and he can't talk back. So very low levels of sass. Although there is, even if it's babble, he does. I think he's ready for sass. He'll be good at it.
We taught our children sarcasm way too early, and it's bitten us. It's sass after sass.
Oh my goodness. Well,
and I'm equal parts proud and frustrated.
Well, that kind of ties, I suppose, into our story today. Without further ado, and if you don't mind, I'll get into the plot of Grimm Story 43, Frau Trude.
Oh, do please.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl who was obstinate and inquisitive and did not obey her parents.
That's the first line that made me laugh.
It's
a little girl who's obstinate and inquisitive.
Obstinate.
And I was like, I know that kid.
That's my kids. Okay, so yeah, obstinate and inquisitive and always talking back. A lot of sass to her parents. And then she decides she wants to go see Frau Trude, I guess, a woman in town. Her parents say, like, no, you should not go see Frau Trude. And she says, well, kindly suck it, because I will go see Frau Trude. She goes, despite her parents saying no, she goes. And then when she gets to Frau Trude, Trude said, oh, but you're very pale. She said, well, I'm so terrified at everything that I've seen. And Frau Trude says, well, what have you seen? And she says, well, I saw a black man on your steps. And she says, well, that was a collier. And then the girl says, well, I saw a green man as well. Well, that was a hunter. Then I saw a blood red man. Frau Trude says, no, little girl, that was a butcher. The girl was a little embarrassed now, and so she says, I was terrified. I looked through the window and I saw you, but it looked like you were the devil with a head full of fire. Frau Trude says, well, my friend, then what you saw was my true form, and you shall give me some light. And so then she changes the girl into a block of wood, throws it into the fire, and when it was fully lit up, she sits down near the fire and says, well, that shines bright for once. The end.
There are a lot of disturbing drawings or wood cuttings I've seen of this story where the block of wood, it's like Frau Trude holding the block of wood, but it still has arms and legs, or it has a face that's screaming.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow, that's imaginative.
You could sell that. You could like a block of and a really bright burning fire log shaped like Grimm branded fire logs.
How has that not been done already?
I think because it's terrible. I think you can get away with that maybe one day out of the year, but
yeah, maybe.
But yeah, this added to the third collection. I feel like I don't know if it's just that we've been on a run of third collection stuff where the second edition, I don't think there was a lot of changes, but I think a lot of changes happened in the third edition. I think by now, it was a very popular book. They added a bunch of stories. They changed up a bunch of previous stories. You know what I mean? And finished them off. I think last week's story we had talked about, which that was Grimm 42. They added a final sentence to the third edition, which was, and who knows what might have happened to this fellow, but
Oh yeah, it's the Godfather. Yeah,
Godfather, yeah.
just
So
to make sure it was clear that he was evil.
which sort of like or give the idea that maybe he was evil and
Yeah.
it wasn't just this kind of kind guy that just happened to be the devil. Arn Thompson type 334, which is just the household of the witch. Various, people go to a witch household. We see this a lot. Not quite exactly this, because this is a rare one where the witch straight up wins and just kills
Yay.
the girl. But we've seen a lot of people go to witches' houses. They want to turn you to gingerbread. They want to do all sorts of things to you, and mostly the people get away. But this one does not, I think, because of what I feel the moral might be. I'm sure you got the same moral that I did.
Well, we know how good I am with morals.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I mean, obey.
Yeah.
Straight up, but don't question authority and obey your parents. And to an extent, the other thing is like your parents actually know what's good for you in a lot of cases.
Typically,
Like you can be inquisitive and maybe obstinate is not a great word for a kid, but if they're like if I tell if there was like a the pervy guy in town, I don't think we have one, but like if there was a guy who was like, that dude is fucking weird, kid, do not go to that guy's house. If you see him in town, you walk the other way. Do not get into his car. Nothing. Like, trust me. I don't trust that person.
I know from experience.
Yeah. And then he's going to kidnap you. He's going to kidnap you and either kill you or do terrible things. That's how this is going to go down.
Yeah. It's funny. Speaking of the Godfather from last week, this is a similar one where the protagonist kind of pokes their head into where they really shouldn't be, and they see the title character in their true form, and then does or does not pay for gaining that knowledge.
Peek behind the curtain, and you might, you don't want to see, you might not want to see how the sausage is made, as it were. You might either die or just get have a little fright, like last week. I actually don't have a lot more. Do you have any notes?
I have a few things. One is I had no idea what a collier was. I had to look it up. It's a coal miner.
Okay.
Which I suppose makes sense.
That's what. Okay, so that's interesting. Then it wasn't just a black guy.
Right. Yeah. And when I first read it, I was like, I was so scared. I saw a black man on your steps.
Yeah, I was.
That didn't age well.
I thought that too. I said that's very strange that they said that. I didn't look up what a collier was, but I said, oh, it must be something. I'll look it up later, and then I forgot. But okay, so a coal miner.
The coal miner looks black. The hunter who spends his time in the woods looks green, probably wearing camouflage.
Sure.
And then the butcher looks red, probably covered with blood.
Yeah, as
innocently,
yeah.
Of course.
So that makes a lot of sense.
One thing I found really interesting. Actually, I found two really interesting things. One is that I saw a summary of an analyst or a writer or somebody named Kay Turner had written Playing with Fire, Transgression as Truth in Grimm's Frau Trude, in which she basically highlights queer subtext under the surface of this story. She says, motifs of a classic coming out narrative. The main character has a socially unacceptable desire that she pursues despite her parents disowning her, which actually you skimmed over in the beginning, but yeah, they say, oh, if you go to Frau Trude's house, you're no longer our daughter. Yeah. So yeah, she's like, I gotta go seek my truth. And the parents are like, we're gonna turn our back on you. And she does it anyway, which is, is not uncommon coming out narrative.
Oh yeah.
And then it gets a little more esoteric. She experiences self-doubt as actualized with the frightening images of the black man and the green man and the red man.
Mm-hmm.
She meets her first love, who, quote, stokes the fire and transforms her. It's good to note that Frau Trude is not taking any lead in any of this. She's just kind of waiting. Doesn't build her up as a predatory character in this coming out narrative.
Okay.
Burning wood was a common metaphor for sexual ripening and first love in 19th century Germany. And then transforms the last line. So she says literally, for once it burns brightly, also known as it gives off such a bright light, which could be construed to mean that this is sort of the girl's best form. This is the girl's best self.
Huh. Okay. That's absolutely fascinating. I
Yeah.
love that read. And especially for something that was only like 3/4 of a page. I didn't even think to really like layer it on something else, but that is fascinating.
Now, I don't think the Grimms necessarily had that in mind.
They might have though. I mean, it's 1840 this came out, right? I
Yeah,
mean, there were lesbians.
true.
I don't know exactly, and of course, we always get into this problem of not knowing exactly what it's a translated work
Right.
from potentially much older stories, which might have been in a different language, and B, we don't understand the slang because they were writing it in the vernacular, and
Right.
so there's all these like slang terms that in Shakespeare in Midsummer's Night Dream, bottom gets turned into a donkey, and there's a lot of that's body, right? Like because donkeys have a large member.
Oh,
His
yeah.
name's Bottom for ass and things like that. So, but if you don't know that, you don't get the joke of
Yeah, you get
why the
that in college,
queen
not in high school.
exactly. Or just I mean, and if you have to take a class, like you might pick up on that. But no, that's fantastic, and that'll switch. We can go into actually. Do you have any other notes before I get into my pitch? Because I have a pitch that kind of weirdly enough connects to that a little
Ooh,
bit.
interesting. The
Yeah.
only other thing I had was that there was a German pop group, like sort of pop,
Okay.
called Marie Deutschland, literally like Marie Germany. They were a German band in the early 80s, and they had a song called Frau Trude.
Okay.
And it has an amazing music video accompanying it. You can find it on YouTube. It's very cinematic. It sounds their sound is almost, I don't know if I want to say pre-goth. I mean, it's not like dark necessarily musically,
Okay.
but obviously like the motif is dark. She's dressed as Frau Trude the witch, and she's prowling around her house, and the sound is very much like something you might have we might have heard on an off night at the goth club back in the valley.
That's fantastic. Well, maybe we'll lead out the show with that if I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
if I can
perhaps.
find it. All right. Well, here's my pitch then.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just go through the pitch and then we can talk about it. So I thought I'd continue the story where it leaves off. So the girl's burning brightly, but then becomes the smoke. And now the smoke is
Ooh.
wandering the countryside a bit until she settles over a city or a village. For a while, the city is constantly in darkness. People are scared, so they all abandon the city, and the animals come in. Someone had left a baby in the city while everyone was fleeing. This is where it might get a little dark. They try and nurse the baby, but the baby dies, and the soul of the baby wings its way up to heaven. Animals bring the baby to church or something, maybe to pray, if you want to keep it grim, or they do a spell. Depends on how Brothers Grimm you want to be, but the smoke all gathers, goes inside the baby, and it comes back to life. And then the animals kind of raise her, and she's learned her lesson and also now has this animal army.
I
And
like it.
oh, thank you. And I think it's a neat little trans story then if we take your queer
Yeah.
part because like so okay she dies like she gets burned like with this passion, but then of course you're not dying when you're transitioning, but I'm again, and I'm not trans so I don't want to speak for the trans community, but like the idea of a dead name, for example.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there is somewhat of a motif there.
Yeah, and so everyone does their very best to not use the dead name, and you do that, so that part of you is gone, and this new part is reborn. I was just thinking like it would be fun to have the smoke go, but then this is I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what you do with this. Oh, so you're kind of reborn into another person. And that's kind of what I was saying, which I did not mean to
Yeah. And in a arguably more harmonious body, more
yeah.
harmonious spirit. You're harmonious with nature. The idea that she's learned her lesson.
And you have a new
Um,
family perchance.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like with the animals are, which in Grimm is animals good, humans bad, but
Right.
your family is gone, they've disowned you, so now you've got this brand new world, this family, choose your own family situation.
Yeah. I have to say the idea of the smoke, drifting out and then settling over a village, and everybody gets scared and leaves the village, and then the animals come in. Like all of that is very grim, like Grimm.
Yeah.
Like I could easily have seen that being a continuation of this story written by them.
Which that was all I was going for, but then it's funny that it worked so well.
Yeah.
Can we If I was a less scrupulous man, I would go back and edit it so that we were just geniuses this whole time. But I think
Publish the next edition.
I think everyone knows we're fools.
Eh,
Well, maybe we're not fools. We can stumble into greatness, but that was not my original plan. But it's way better. It's way better with your original analysis or Kate somethings who's
Kay Turner.
Kay Turner's analysis, and then we have a nice little queer sort of transgender story. That's it was funny. I was gonna originally my pitch was like, okay, they go back to the witch's house, they grab her, they put her in a barrel with nails and acid, and the barrel burns on her fire, and they say now that's what I call a bright burning fire. But if Frau Trude was the one that kind of awoke this flame within her loins, then she just went to a city and banged her way through a different village. I digress. Then maybe the witch isn't bad after all.
Well, that's the other thing I was thinking too. Is I mean, looking at this from Frau Trude's perspective,
Yeah.
I mean, in like, there's the classic, at odds of a village fears a woman suspected to be a witch who lives alone and minds her own business, except that everybody's going to her on the side for love potions and abortions and things like that.
Sure.
But like you're just chilling in your house, and this little girl who is obstinate and willful shows up and is like, I saw some scary shit outside. She's like, what are you doing in my house?
I'm friends. First of all, it's not scary. I'm like they're just low. They're just working class, dude. It's a coal miner, a hunter, and a butcher.
Those are my
what you
friends.
saw. Those are my friends. I didn't invite you.
Right. Who are you and why are you here?
Yeah. Why are you coming here making fun of my friends? It's like that time. Oh, we had a party a long time ago, and I invited my Radio Shack friends and then also all of our goth friends. And this one woman was making fun of my Radio Shack friends. And then they came found me. They're like, we don't feel welcome here. I'm like, who doesn't make you feel welcome? And they pointed to her. I'm like, did you say shit to my friends? And she was like, well, I don't know that they really fit in here. I'm like, who the fuck are you? You leave my fucking house right now.
You have to edit out, but tell me who that was.
Oh, fuck. I forget her name.
Oh, you don't know?
No, it was something stupid like Raven. She called herself we kicked her out. And then she came back in. She came back like 2 hours later, drunk, dropped trow, and peed on our coffee table.
I don't remember this at all. Wait,
Sat down.
This is backwater?
No, well, it wasn't backwater. This was
okay.
This was when Tyler and I lived together with Mike G in Northampton. We lived in, I forget what the fuck we called that place. You were dating someone and we're living back east, so you may not have been at that party.
Yeah.
Do you have any other notes?
I do not.
Okay. Well, this has been a bit of a for a story taking up only 3/4 of a page. I hope a fun little romp through a bunch of different subjects. If you don't have any other notes and I do not have any other notes, I think we can call it.
I feel like we did this one justice.
I hope so. This has been Grimm, story number 43, Frau Trude. Sleep tight, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.
Sie hat ja so viel von Frau Trude gehört. Einmal wird sie zu ihr hingehen. Die Leute sagen,